There's women who have chosen life and we've kept in contact. And one of them recently just said to me, I'm so thankful that I came in to you and didn't go first to my abortion appointment because I just love this baby so much. And you were the voice that actually spoke for him.
What's up, my peeps? Here I am. Listen, this is going to be really special. I am a 4-minute drive from my house. You're about to step into my world right here. I am here at the Alliance Women's Clinic. As I told you, 4-minute drive from my house, because here's the question today. Do pro-lifers even care about the woman? Do they even care about her at all? We keep hearing a new narrative that they actually don't. We're here to argue the fact that actually pro-lifers do care, and I'm going to show you the Alliance Women's Clinic here, what they are actually doing for, not just for the unborn, but for moms. I'm going to interview the person who's running the shop here, but I want you to see something. This is special. So here's the shop here. I want you to look down the street, literally right here is the Family Dollar. Okay, so you may remember about 2 years ago, this is the block right over here that got burned down during the BLM things that happened in Kenosha here. And I guess the reason I'm trying to say it is that these things got burned down right here. We have the Family Dollar here that serves the community that gets burned down. We have the biggest women's clinic here that does incredible work for moms that are looking for help and yada yada for the unborn. And it was under threat of being burned down. Why? In the name of justice. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Cooper Stuff. This is something I've been wanting to do with Jenna for a while, and this is the time to do it. As everybody knows, Roe v. Wade, all this news came out about this draft. Who knows? Maybe this is really going to be overturned in terms of the federal law. So all of a sudden, I was like, I'm coming home from vacation. This is the time to come to this center that is 4-minute drive from my house that is doing incredible work. We're going to talk about this question. Do pro-lifers even care about women? There's a new charge that I keep seeing a lot. So we are here at the, am I saying it? Alliance for Women's Health.
Alliance Women's Clinic.
I keep forgetting all the names. She's told me 7 times. Alliance Women's Clinic. And this is my friend, Jenna Cross, and she is the executive director of this clinic, which is a pregnancy medical clinic. I can't remember all the words.
I know. There's a lot of words.
Full disclosure, there are, I want everybody to know before we start, there are a lot of personal things we have with this. We go to church together. So we are friends with Jenna and her husband, Steve, and their family, as well as our church, I think, supports this.
Yes, big time.
Clinic pretty big time. And I want people to understand when I talk about my church, our church has about 300 or 400 people. We are not a mega church. We're a 300 or 400 people type church, but I think we do pretty great work, if I can say so myself, supporting this clinic in which they do amazing work. All right, so last thing I need to say is that this clinic was redone by my drummer, Jen Ledger, for the band Skillet. They came in with a crew.
Yes, they did. Fantastic work.
They did, right?
So thankful.
We should show people around in a little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they came in and redid the place and just made it, welcoming.
Absolutely.
A place where people feel comfortable coming and those sort of things. So enough of my talking. I'm going to introduce you to Jenna. And here's how I want to kind of break this up. I want to break it up into a few parts. Number one, I want Jenna to tell us what they even do here. Is all that you do here is just try to force people to have kids, or do we do other things too? She's going to tell us some of those things. Secondly, I asked Jenna to prepare some information, statistics. I think there's a lot of information, there's a lot of accusations going on, a lot of misinformation and this, that, and the other. We're going to talk about that on the back end. But I think before we start, unfortunately, we have to talk about some of the definitions of terms because as we've been talking, a lot of the definitions keep changing. So that's enough of my talk, and I'll ask you, do you want to start and give us some definition of terms? What's the difference between, you call this a pregnancy health center and the difference between that and a crisis pregnancy center, and then the pro-life distinctions that we're seeing pop up a lot right now.
Absolutely. So a crisis pregnancy center is kind of the older name of what we do, but that has changed over time to being known as pregnancy resource centers or pregnancy medical clinics, because the reality is that a lot of the women that come in through our doors, not everyone is in crisis. A lot of women need some support. They're vulnerable. They need some resources, some care. But to call it a crisis pregnancy center is quite misleading as to the actual condition of most of the moms that come in. Crisis is obviously really high level of need, which some of our moms do have a high level of need, and we're happy to meet them there. But Pregnancy Resource Center is a better word, probably. We provide a lot of resources for moms. I'll explain that. Pregnancy medical clinics, some of these centers qualify for that if you are overseen by a medical director. We do have an OBGYN who gives us all of our standing orders, looks at all of our ultrasounds, oversees everything that we do here. That qualifies us.
They're on staff here?
They are not on location, but yes, oversee our operations and provide us with our orders for the services that we provide for the moms. So those are some of the differences.
Yeah. All right. Great. Now, before we jump into exactly, I'm thinking of office space. So what do you do here? Right. Before we jump into that, can you tell us then, the reason I kind of want to have this is because of all these distinctions on what it means to be pro-life. Right. We used to have this one definition. Now there's people kind of confusing the issues. Even a lot of people, let's see, my daughter was telling me last night, she's like, well, one of my friends keeps posting about how she's actually pro-life. And of course, I know what she means. Mm-hmm. But I said, okay, but is she also like anti-abortion? She's like, oh, absolutely not. She supports third trimester abortions, but calls herself pro-life. Can you explain to us the differences?
Absolutely. There's been such a move to basically steal the pro-life label, put it onto other things, when the reality of what we're dealing with abortion is 2,400 lives every single day in the United States being destroyed through abortion, being murdered through abortion. And people who are truly pro-life will stand up and be a voice for those voiceless individuals, those innocent individuals, to say, we believe in your right to life and we're going to support you. And we know that you are vulnerable and don't have a voice. And we're going to be a voice for that. That is the pro-life movement. And to say, well, you're not really pro-life unless you're this, or you're not really pro-life unless you're that, those are the arguments that you'll hear. Well, we can be for a lot of other things that empower individuals, and that is fantastic, and I'm for that. But to say I'm pro-life, but I don't support these 2,400 per day, 900,000 per year babies who are being killed in the womb, I don't support them. Well, you can't call yourself pro-life, in our opinion, as the pro-life movement, if you're not going to stand up for them.
Now, what are some of the things that they consider to be pro-life, even if they are pro-woman's choice? They call themselves pro-life, but what do they mean?
Yeah, I think I've seen things as like immigration reform, gun control, some things like that being kind of taken as, well, this is pro-life, or for climate issues, climate justice, all of these kind of progressive causes. They're trying to say, well, we're pro-life because we support that.
I've seen that too. It feels like a very confusing amalgamation of things, to see people protesting for climate justice, which is what they call it. Climate justice, and saying that we are not pro-life because we are not fighting for climate justice, as they call it, environmental whatever. But there's also then a move that's happening in Christianity, right? And I've talked about this on the program a lot. Even on the Christian side, there is what I would consider to be I consider to be on the Christian left. And I think they are not pro-life the way that I think of pro-life. They still sometimes say that they actually think abortion is wrong, but that they are supportive of policies on the left because those policies will help decrease abortions. So they call themselves pro-life. They say that we are not pro-life because all that we care about is... Now, I don't know if they're necessarily as big on like the climate stuff, but they do seem to bring all these other aspects in, like welfare, child care, health insurance. I can't even think of what else, but they there's kind of no end to what all they can
Right.
bring into it. Is
Yes.
that's kind of right?
Yes, absolutely. There is this big move to say, well, if we are going to be pro-life and against abortion, then you must be for XYZ, and it's all leftist policy. And so, we can get into that, but what we're seeing day to day is the actual repercussions of what liberal policies have done to women. We're seeing people who have been just demoralized by generations of the welfare state and not having any way out of that or any hope to get out of that. And that is a really sad thing, to see someone in front of you who has everything that they need, isn't saying that they, have any particular financial need, but they don't have any real hope of getting out. And people are telling them that the easiest way out is abortion. If you're in a situation where you're pregnant, then you can just have an abortion and that'll make things better. Apparently, doesn't make anything better, but these policies have not improved things. I mean, in the 60s, 75% of babies born in Black families were born to married couples. And now it's 75% or more that are born to single mothers. So it's just been a massive change since these policies were enacted that basically subsidized single motherhood and destroyed the nuclear family. So that's a political debate that, we can have as far as what policies have helped and what haven't. I have strong opinions on that. Mm-hmm. But to say that in order to actually care about abortion, we have to be for all these policies it's crazy. It's not true. Mm-hmm. And what we see is that women do actually have these needs, for the most part, already met. If they come in and they don't have insurance, we can help them get on insurance, get insurance coverage. And that's something that we do here. If they come in and they need childcare assistance, we can get them childcare assistance for free. That is no problem. If they, I can't remember what else you brought up as far as...
I can't remember exactly now, but it actually brings up something that I want to interject, because I want to ask you specifically about that. One of the things that I think that I just want to mention is that this leads to like the pejoratives. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes people don't know what the word pejorative means, but a quick Cooper stuff definition. Whenever you, when I tell people that they're commies, that's a pejorative. All right. A pejorative is basically like when you're trying to make a point and you exaggerate something and you make it into a one word attack on somebody. And so the new pejorative for people like me is that I am not pro-life. They attack me by calling me pro-birth. Mm-hmm. They say, you're not pro-life, you're pro-birth. Mm-hmm. And what that means is, you care about the baby and you don't care anything about the mom. Mm-hmm. And somebody actually there's a comment on Cooper stuff a few weeks back about all this stuff. Somebody said was attacking me for being pro-birth. And he was like, you say you blah, blah, blah for Jesus, but you don't give, he was cussing, you don't give a blankety blank about those children because you're not actually pro-life. So the pejorative, the attack, is that you're pro-birth. Last year, I don't know if people remember on Cooper stuff, but I decided that I would, what do you call when there's like a bad word and people take the word and they use it themselves to try to make it lose its power? You see it a lot with racial slurs. Sure. So basically, you take the word and then whatever that racial slur is, you hear it in all the songs. Right. Uh-huh. And it's sort of like we're taking the power from that word and kind of reappropriating it. Mm-hmm. So I reappropriate. So sometimes I call myself pro-birth just to make people mad.
I'm unapologetically pro-birth. Absolutely.
I'm like, I'm pro-birth. Like, you're not going to get me with the pejorative,
right?
But because I'm not going to play it. But I do think that the charge is what we're getting at here. I want to read this quote. Then I want to ask you specifically. So rather than me, guys, play a clip for you to where it seems like I don't want to attack anybody on this episode. I'm trying to be nice. This is nice, John, today. I feel nice. Do you feel nice?
Very nice.
I'm being very nice. So I'm not going to say who this is, but I got in a little bit of a Twitter battle this week. And I just want to read you a quote. This was on the Allie Beth Stuckey podcast. Allie shares our opinion on a lot of this stuff. I'm from listening to her. So she had a guest on. So this is Allie's question to this guest. She says, when I look over at progressives, maybe it's just a caricature, but what I see is a complete denunciation of the sanctity of life, a complete denunciation of biblical marriage and gender as being totally bigoted. And that feels like the other side hates me, and I can't even imagine voting for the party that represents that. She asked her guest, she says, will you tell me where I'm wrong or where I'm seeing something that isn't true? Now, that's very nice. This is Allie being really nice. Yeah. And so her guest that she had on is a Christian. He claims to be pro-life, and it's a Christian movement that they say is pro-whole life. And that some of these confusing things kind of come in here. And this was his answer to her. So she says, tell me where I'm wrong. Your side of the aisle, you want me to vote for the left, but it seems like the left is getting so extreme that I can't even belong. I think they hate me, is what she's saying, which I think sounds about right to me. And this is his answer. He said, no, I've written about the extremes we've gone to on the Democratic side of things when it comes to those two issues. I'm not going to battle you and try to justify the party on that, which is good, right? He's not going to buy it. But notice he says, I've written about the extremes. He doesn't say they have a problem with abortion on his face. So he says, no, I've written about that. We've gone to extremes on these things. But then he says, I don't care enough about the party to do that, and I think that they're wrong in that regard. I think the one thing you might want to consider, though, is how those issues got such a foothold and why in some ways they are gaining momentum on those issues. Turn the page. And I feel like it's because Christians did not have what I would call a whole life perspective. Now, this kind of plays into what we were talking about the pro-whole life, all right? So here's what he's saying. Yeah, they've gone too far. I think they're wrong. They've gone too far. But I think it's because Christians did not have a whole life perspective. I think because in many instances, Christians were not as compassionate to people who had crisis pregnancies or people who were LGBTQ who really were looking for community, who were our neighbors and our brothers and sisters and weren't responded to in a loving way. So this is kind of what got me wanting to have this conversation. These two ideas of pro-life. And so the charge is this, Jenna, you run a clinic for women here. Are you just pro-birth or are there other things you're doing? Now you said women come in. So let's just start with who can come into this clinic? Who is this invited to?
Right. So anyone is welcome to come into our clinic for our services. Our services are always completely free to all of our clients.
You don't charge any money.
Charge no money. No money. This is completely funded by pro-life Christians.
It's very pro-birth of you.
Yeah,
okay.
Yes.
All right, go ahead. So yes.
So completely free services. They come in, we do a pregnancy test, we'll do an ultrasound, confirm their pregnancy, and talk through all of their options with them. We find out what are their biggest needs, what are the things that are of concern to them, whether that be financial or relational, spiritual. They have opportunity to share that with us, and we start to work towards solutions for those things. There's a lot of times immediate things that we can do right away. We have a social worker on staff that we can pull in to help apply for insurance, help someone get established with prenatal care. If they're
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yes, please.
What do you mean by a social worker to help apply for insurance? What is involved in that?
Yeah, it's a process that for most of our clients, they're able to, they qualify for Medicaid coverage. So even this idea that women can't get insurance is not the truth. Women can get insurance. Women who are poor in a difficult circumstance are able to qualify for insurance. If they haven't applied for it, we can help them apply for it.
Is that a Wisconsin? Is that Wisconsin law, or do you think that might be other places in the nation as well?
That's across the nation.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
All right.
Yes. So women are able to obtain coverage for their pregnancies. And the laws do vary state to state by who qualifies and how you apply and all of that type of thing. But there aren't women in this country who just absolutely cannot possibly keep a food on the table for their kids or a roof over their heads. We live in a country that does have an incredible social safety net. So, in those extreme cases, you're looking at a situation where there's an incredible amount of substance abuse going on or some type of extreme situation. But even then, there are women's shelters where they can go, where they're actually able to obtain help if they really want it, if they're willing to do the things that are required to be able to stay in that place. And that's that there's an if with that. That there's an if, but if you're asking, is the care available? The care is available.
And so I think it would be good in other words, let's say somebody doesn't have health insurance and they're like, I need to find out if for sure I am pregnant. I don't know what to do. And they don't want to spend money to go. So they can come here for free.
Yep.
and you can find out what's what and what your option is. Yes. I think that's a great service. Mm-hmm. When people do, for Medicaid, for instance, is that something that people pay X amount for and then the government covers X amount?
It depends on the circumstance. So it would depend on what your income is, what your situation is. So all of that would be dependent upon those different variables. But those are things that for people who are struggling in life, who are facing challenges, it is overwhelming to get online and find out what you qualify for and find out what resources are available to you. I mean, it's overwhelming for me sometimes to find out what is available to me in different contexts. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we want to be able to help with that. We want to be able to say, oh, okay, well, you have this need, so we'll help you with that. Let's help you get that coverage that you need. Let's fill out this application together. We can say, okay, what you need to apply for this is these different documents. So get these different documents and let's set our next appointment, and then we'll do that together. We'll fill out that application together, and we'll get you going towards what you need. And so
for social worker, like if somebody come in who had been abused or was being abused or something of that nature, then you're prepared to deal with that.
Absolutely. And we would ask screening questions right away in our first visit. If they come with anybody, we'll take mom back first to talk with her. When we get our health history, we're asking screening questions to find out if there's depression or suicidal tendencies, to find out if there's abuse of any kind or if she's safe in her home. We're asking all those questions, and we have protocols in place if there is something going on, if it's a minor, what we would do, and if it's a woman who's wanting to get out of a situation, what we would do and how we would make her safe, which isn't true of the abortion movement. I mean, there is undercover footage of people going into Planned Parenthoods and basically posing as a pimp, a trafficker, and asking questions, fishing for what would you do if I brought in a girl or underage girl, and they do sweep these things under the rug. They do sweep abuse under the rug. Women who've gotten out of these settings have said, well, I had 8 abortions during that time, right? I mean, how does this happen? There are signs that you can't miss if they are not actually willing to look the other way to abuse. But evil people love abortion. Evil men love abortion. If you're an abuser, if you're a trafficker, if you're a rapist, nothing could make you happier than the fact that you can just sweep that under the rug. You can just take care of the consequences of your actions. And in those horrible circumstances, nobody actually asks the woman what she wants. So if we're talking about women's empowerment, in a lot of these cases, women do want to have their baby, and their baby would actually be a source of freedom for them, a source of being able to actually escape this horrifying circumstance. But they're trapped, and they're not actually able to choose that for themselves.
Yeah.
So this is a very evil movement. People who are doing abortions, are running these places. This is evil. It's godless. It's horrible what's happening. And if we actually think about what happens in an abortion, what's actually done, it's easy to realize this has to be demonic. This is demonic.
Right.
This is such a depth of evil. So as Christians, the idea that we would even kind of go with some of their arguments, we'd even adopt as a premise some of the things that they would say as a starting place is just, it's crazy to me. Why are we going to basically take as the truth what the pro-abortion evil movement is saying is the truth about these circumstances, and then trying to say, okay, well, this is the truth because they say it is, even though they're liars and they're murderers. Why would we take what they say is the truth and then try to, from there, figure out what we're going to do about it versus actually looking at what is the truth of these circumstances? Right. What are these women actually experiencing? What is actually available to them? And is it true that women are choosing abortion because they absolutely have no other options? I mean, when Christians say we need to make abortion unnecessary, I just get so fired up because abortion is never necessary. And so if we've gone to using that word, we have already adopted the pro-abort premise.
Yes.
We've already said, oh, okay, well, they say it's necessary, so it must be necessary. Well, let's find out if it actually is. And the actual truth is that abortion is never necessary. And in this country, women have so many other options. Now, I believe, women, we say, right, that women are strong, women are capable, women can do anything. This is the message of the feminist movement.
Yeah,
Women
that's right.
just as capable. And I believe that women are strong and women are capable. And so why do we then, on the flip side, say that, well, women couldn't possibly take responsibility for their own child? We couldn't expect women to figure out what to do if they end up pregnant. And it's a difficult circumstance. We couldn't expect women to actually just figure out a way to make it work. And that's wrong too, because we should actually be confident that women can figure it out. Women have all of the time, and great things have come from it. I mean, there's a woman running for senator in Pennsylvania. Her name's Kathy. She has an awesome story I just watched on YouTube. And her story is her mom was raped at the age of 11. Her mom chose to have her. And it's just this powerful testimony. Her mom said it wasn't even an option, that it wouldn't have my child. And I'm so glad that nobody was telling me that I should, because the evil thing had already happened. The evil thing already needed to be dealt with, and it needed to be dealt with regardless. So why would we heap another violent act onto the first violent act of rape in those cases? And I just think it's really important for Christians to get very clear on these things, because we get really uncomfortable when the extreme things come up and we start to think, oh, maybe we should allow it in some cases. No, we need to get clear on what abortion is when life begins, and recognize that there are circumstances that do require an incredible amount of compassion, and we should have that and we should show that. But the truth is that the truth of the gospel can restore any of these situations. I mean, I have a good friend who was raped, and it was an awful thing. But she's just living the most victorious life you could imagine. And it's because of Christ. It's because of the work that he's done in her life. And so just this idea that maybe we should consider the idea of allowing another evil on this woman's life in those circumstances is just abhorrent to me. So
I know what you mean. I think it's really important that we don't buy into people's worldview when we enter the conversation.
Yes.
And we see that on all of the issues right now of justice. So, and the thing is that I think as Christians, we want to be nice people.
Right.
We might not know what that means all the time. We want to be kind.
Yes.
We want to show the love of Christ. And so what I think has happened is the left has become, they're obviously trying to manipulate words and manipulate ideas because they want to win arguments. Fine. What's really sad to me is to see Christians that kind of agree with the left's. I've been reading a lot recently, so I'm not trying to sound smart, but they're telos or telos, whatever that word is. Like they agree with where they're going. They're like, yeah, that's where we need to go.
Yeah.
And so since we agree with, that's going to be a better world. A better world is going to be a world where no one has any material need. And if no one has any material need, they have all the money they want. They all have health insurance. Nobody's lacking for anything. And if they had all those things, then it would be completely unnecessary to ever have an abortion. And so because of that, we're going to start changing stuff around.
Yes.
And the reason I think that what you said is really smart, that we need Christians to begin to understand worldview, Bible, how the Bible applies to life, is that when I see these Christians take on that left telos or telos, if my wife was here, she'd tell me how to, you know how to pronounce it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Telos. But telo means where you're going. What's your end game? Where do you see this going? And what do you hope to happen? They've taken that on, and in taking that on, they just haven't understood the biblical point of view that says this: even if you meet everybody's material need, you meet they have as much food as they can ever want. They have all the health insurance in the world. They have people are going to sin. People are going to do nasty stuff because we are born into sin. Yes. And it's remarkable to me to see them do that. And that's why I don't like that they have tried twisting all of this around to where the secular telos is actually better than the biblical telos, if you will. So at the risk of embarrassing myself for mispronouncing telos or telos over and over and over, telos maybe, I'm sure I'll get a text from James White saying, your Greek is horrible, you're pronouncing it wrong.
I don't even know the word, so you're already ahead of me there. So.
Yeah, go ahead and text me, James. You don't pronounce anything right. Anyway, but the point is this, we're taking their talking points and going, okay, well, that has to be true, therefore. And so, this is just completely anecdotal. But as I pulled up here right before this interview, so I pulled up in my car and a stranger walks over to me and he says, hey, bro, do you want to buy any food stamps? And I said, oh, no, I'm all good. And he's like, well, I'm not good. I got all these food stamps and no drugs. Wow. So he's mad. He's getting food stamps from the government. Now, this is anecdotal. I'm not saying everybody on food stamps is on drugs. That's not what I'm saying. So nobody tweet me, please. That's obviously not true. But the point that what I read to you from Allie Beth Stuckey's show, her guest, the point he's making is, well, yeah, the abortion has become extreme, but you have to ask yourself, why has that started? We have not been taking care of people. And so in your experience, or with statistics on either a national level or in just our little city of Kenosha, right, are the people coming here because they are actually destitute? Mm-hmm. If you make me have this child, I'm going to be on the street. I will not be able to survive. There's nothing to do with the child. There's no foster care agencies available. Of course, let's not talk about foster care yet, because even the Christian left has begun saying it's actually really unjust to put a kid in foster care. That's even worse than killing it. Even the Christian left is beginning to appropriate that argument. So is it the case that people are as destitute as the guest on Allie Beth Stuckey's show says?
Yeah, that has not been our experience. So I'll give you a little bit of our numbers. These mirror the nationwide statistics as far as the amount of abortions and reasons why people would be considering abortion.
You say they do mirror?
They do mirror,
okay,
yes.
Good.
Yeah. So we have seen 138 women over the last 12 months that were planning to abort. So not just undecided or vulnerable to abortion, but actually came in intending to have an abortion. And we are able to see that high of a number because we're partnered with a great organization called Human Coalition. If you're connected to a pregnancy center, definitely recommend checking them out. They've been hugely helpful to us. They have an awesome ministry and marketing and call center that's really fantastic. So little plug in for them, but that's how we're able to see so many women first who are planning to have abortions. A lot of them, when they come in, they even have their appointment scheduled with the abortion clinic.
Okay.
So it's like,
all right,
they're coming to us with this intention. And the majority of women that we see, actually 100% of the women that we see are not in that circumstance that you're describing, that if you make me have this baby, I won't have a home, I won't have food on the table. That's not the case. Like I said, our country has enormous safety nets available for people. So these women, they have places to live. A lot of them would like an improved housing situation. So one of the things that we do is we immediately start to work with them towards that. Okay, let's talk about how we can be making steps over the next 9 months to work towards that goal. Something that we want to work with.
Is that like financial planning? What do you mean by that?
Okay. Yeah. So we'll help them or find out what different housing resources are available to them, because various people can qualify for just different types of housing assistance. And that would vary state to state, but there's also help and resources with that. So, we'll do budgeting and financial planning with women that want to work with us, want to change their situation and want, to get improved housing or something like that. But these women have homes, they have food on the table, they have their basic needs met, they have access, like I said, to healthcare. So this idea that if we just give them more money, then that would stop abortions. That's not even the real reasons. When we're saying we can address these issues, in a lot of the cases, they still choose to abort anyway, because the reason that they're doing it isn't because of those things at the end of the day. If they wanted to figure it out, they could figure it out.
I see.
The reason is they just want to have an abortion. And we've lived in a society that has said, do what feels good to you.
Yes.
Whatever is best for you. If this is not great timing, then, it's your truth. There's no absolute truth anymore. It's just whatever is best for you. And so that is really the reason at the heart of it. We thought, okay, if we can address these financial reasons, because that's what you hear, right? it's financial things. That's why women are aborting, but it's not. When you get to the root of it, when you start to dig in, well, we can do this for that issue, or we can do this for that issue. And it's kind of like, not in all cases. I mean, praise God, we've had 45 moms who changed their mind. Of those 138, some of them miscarried, so almost 50%.
Interrupt real quick?
Yes.
Because I actually wanted to get to that. So 138 people came in, and 45 decided. Yes. Am I wrong? From reading other statistics, that seems really uber high.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. So, I mean,
I've talked to other people that are like, we see like one, maybe a year, maybe two a year.
Right. And that's why I mentioned, the organization that we partner with, because we were struggling to see abortion-minded moms. Because if they are going to get on and Google, I need an abortion, they're going to get straight to that abortion clinic. And when they go there, they're going to be sold an abortion. And they're really not going to actually have informed consent. They're not going to be told about what the potential side effects can be, or the potential emotional ramifications, which for a lot of women are very significant and long-term. They are there to sell an abortion. And we had a client recently who came to us to have the abortion reversal pill, which is something that we do here now. And she explained her story about going and being really pressured to take the pills while she was there. So of course, again, that's anecdotal, but that is something that you hear quite often, is that Planned Parenthood and other abortion clinics, it is a business. Abortion is a money-making venture. So whereas we're here not to make any money, all of our services are free. We just genuinely do care about the woman. We care about her future. And we know that abortion, whether she thinks that that's the solution that's going to help her or not, we know that it's not. So we're going to talk to her in an incredibly compassionate way. We see her as valuable. She is created by God. We want her to know Christ and experience his love. That's why we're here. But yes, we absolutely want to tell her the truth, because we know that she won't be told the truth if she goes to abortion.
And why is it, well, maybe I want to ask you, because then you'll get fired up. But have you noticed, I bet you have noticed this, have you noticed that even the Christian, I don't know how to label these things. I keep calling it the Christian left on this pro-life issue. I'm talking about the people that aren't pro-life like we are, who aren't like end abortion. Yes. We're getting the Christian left on this side. They don't ever take shots at Planned Parenthood. You never see them criticize Planned Parenthood. I don't think I've ever seen any of them, and I watch these organizations. They will take shots at us, and by say us, I just mean pro-lifers or pro-birthers. They'll take shots at you and your clinic because you're not doing enough, or this, or the church didn't do enough, or we didn't. They will not take. It's almost like they have a worldview that says, maybe I don't agree with Planned Parenthood and everything, but at least they're trying to help women. But we are not. Yet I keep seeing all these undercover things with Planned Parenthood that do not sound like they really, it sounds like there's billions of dollars being made in the abortion industry. It's not incorrect to say. Is that too pejorative? Is that too extreme, or is that accurate?
That's accurate. And also plenty of findings of other shady things like the sale of body parts. I mean, it's a disgusting industry. So to not criticize that, you're exactly right. They won't criticize it, and they're quick to say, oh, they do other things to help women. Yeah, we don't like the abortion part. They do other things though to help women. It's like we have become so numb. Our consciences have become so seared on this issue. These are places that the brains of babies are being blown out. I mean, I know that that's graphic, but that is the reality of what's happening in these places. So just add on a few months to that child. Would you be okay with that if that was a newborn? Would you approach it in the same way? People are bringing their newborns in, and they're doing to them what they actually do in abortions. I mean, it's hard to even say out loud what they do in these abortion procedures. It's disgusting. Yeah. So would we say, oh, I know that they're doing that in that room, but in the room next to it, they are really caring about women. They're giving them birth control, and they're giving them some education and things like that. I hope we wouldn't do that. It's just disgusting. These places are awful.
They will not criticize the left.
Right.
I think you know why. You know what they want. This shirt is not for them because they want those woke cookies. Yes. Selling body parts and experimenting on fetal tissue is not okay unless you're Francis Collins, who is the evangelical, the woke Christians are fine with it with Francis Collins.
Oh, he loves the Lord. I'm sure he does.
Oh, he does.
Sure, he's a brother.
That just makes me sick, Well, yeah. Anyway, let's move on past that. Okay. So be rude. All right. So the experience that you've had here and you think is probably mirroring other places in the nation, obviously is not to say that there is no one that is destitute, no one that is in an actual dire situation. Right. But that is more the exception to the rule because of the safety net that there actually is.
Yes.
And so what about this? What if they say, okay, fine, but I don't think I can keep the baby, but I'm okay with giving the baby up. So I'm okay to have the baby.
Yes.
Because a lot of what the Christian left says is, you guys don't care about the baby afterwards. All you want is the birth, and then you don't care. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of girls, I would think, would be overwhelmed with, how do I even know who to give this to, how to do foster care, how to do you help them with that, right?
Yes.
Or no?
Yes, we do. So when we're giving women all of their options, adoption is one of the options in the list. It's not one that many people are interested in. Interestingly, most women will say, oh, well, if I had carried my baby all the way through, I'd want to parent my baby. And so, but they're fine with aborting, but they would.
That's so bizarre. So they would rather abort the child because they wouldn't be able to deal with the heartache of letting it go.
Yes, but that's partly a societal thing, that message that we've sent, that this is actually no big deal. It's not a person yet. So,
it's very sterile, right? It's almost like that's a surgical procedure.
Right, yes.
And it just goes away.
Yes.
But if they carry the baby all the way to term, it's going to be hard to let someone else have that kid.
Right. But there are 2 million people in the United States that are waiting on a waiting list to adopt an infant. So this is a big misconception as well, that if abortion goes away, which isn't what's on the table even with Roe, it's just going back to the states to decide. But if Roe is overturned, then what will we do with all these babies? Well, there is this 2 million person waiting list to adopt an infant, and it's different than the foster system. If parents choose adoption, their child doesn't go into the foster system. They actually get to choose a waiting family and be a part of that process. And they're part of the decision making as far as how much contact they'll be able to have with that family. Open adoption is much more common now and seen as really healthy for the child to actually be able to know who their biological parents are and have something of a relationship with them as well. So the biological parent gets to have a say in all of that. If they're choosing adoption, they get to select.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So foster care is when you've decided to have your baby, parent your child, and the county steps in and sees that you are not doing an adequate job for one reason or another, and then removes your child from the home. That's when the child would end up in foster care. So that is a misconception that we're able to address with moms as well, because a lot of times they say, well, I wouldn't want my baby to end up in that situation. And we get to just say, well,
and when they say the system, they mean foster care, right?
Right, exactly. Okay. Yep. Because if they are choosing adoption, then they, like I said, would select the family, have a relationship with the family. And even after they've delivered their child, at any point along the process, they're able to change their minds. Even after they've delivered, if they decide, this is my child and I want to raise this child. Obviously, that's hard for an adoptive family, but they know that the biological mom has that right. And that's
how long does that last?
Until they would sign the papers, which is just dependent on usually a few days old.
It's really interesting. Yeah, because I keep hearing on the left, and now I'm beginning to hear parroted on the Christian left. Those are my categories. That basically the church isn't doing what it needs to do to step up. There's 40 million. I don't know. I don't remember the numbers they say, but they always say these gigantic numbers. There's 4 billion, trillion needed, trillion, zillion kids waiting to be whatever, and people won't step up and do it. And that's why I texted you the other night. I said, this doesn't seem true to me, but I haven't studied it. Yeah. But so what is, how many more Christians adopt, or maybe we should say religious people, how many more religious people adopt than your typical, is it the case that the world's out there doing all the work and Christians are like, all I care about was the birth. I don't want any kids.
Yeah. No, so the society at large, 2% have adopted a child. For Christians, it's 5%. So over twice as many Christian households have adopted as just the general population. And it's the same in foster care. Far more Christians are fostering than anyone else. It's a much higher percentage. We're licensed foster parents. We fostered 3 children. We're not currently fostering, but we care very much about those kids. And even being in that system and seeing how dysfunctional it is, and how some of the things that could be fixed, it just seems almost like they don't want to fix it, in a sense, is kind of what our experience was. It seems like this is intentionally dysfunctional because a lot of things could, in my opinion, be changed pretty easily. But it doesn't seem like there's, but it's kind of, to me, it seems like there's an intention to keep a crisis where foster parents really are not, and this is probably different state to state, but our experience was foster parents aren't really involved in the decision-making process at all, even though they're doing the bulk of the work. Foster parents are paid a really low stipend for caring for children when everyone else involved in the care of this child is paid. And so it's no wonder that it's difficult to keep people doing it when you're basically kind of sacrificing everything, and then there's no kind of return. You don't have really a say in any of the process, which isn't to say that we shouldn't do it. As Christians, we should absolutely, if you're prompted, step in and do that. But there's a lot of things that I just think, why is there money for everything under the sun? Every pet project, I mean, there's just government money being wasted every which way, but yet there isn't money to pay the people that are caring for these children 24/7. I know that there could be debates and comments about, then there's people that are doing it for the money. Well, then if you actually have a situation where there is money going towards that, you could have tighter regulations and have stricter oversight and actually have more of a pool of people to pull from. I'm getting on a tangent here, but
interesting. And let me ask you this. Yeah. Is it common knowledge? Like, in other words, if would there be people, if you were to say, hey, over twice as many Christian people, or even just religious people, you want to say whatever, over twice as many religious people adopt to the rest of the population. Same with foster care. The Christians, probably Catholics, I'm assuming, for what I've seen online, and whatnot, are actually doing the bulk of this work. Would there be people that is that common knowledge, or the people that would balk at that?
I would say anyone who's been involved in those type of things would say that that's pretty common knowledge.
They would say,
if you have any kind of knowledge of, or have been around those types of circles.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So the left's, and again, the people that call us pro-birth, they say, okay, so your clinic, you don't care about the fact that women don't have health insurance. We covered that. Well, what if they're in a situation where they've been abused? Well, we have a social worker here free of charge to deal with that. What about, what are some of the other things they would say? Well, they don't know what to do with adoption or with foster care, and we've dealt with that. What would be other reasons that the left says that we don't care about women? I don't even know what the arguments are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that another one that I've seen is, we shouldn't shame women. We shouldn't.
Oh yeah, the shame one. Yes.
We shouldn't make them feel shame, and while I agree with one sense of that, as far as definitely the way that we talk with women matters, the way that we talk with making sure that we're treating them as we would want to be treated is always incredibly important. But the idea behind that is that it isn't good for people to feel shame. And we know biblically it is actually good for people to feel right sorrow for their sin. And that's where we've gotten as a society in not actually just the sexual liberation, sexual revolution, anything goes, whatever feels good, just do it. We've gotten to this situation where people don't even realize that how depraved the activities that they're participating in are. And so even in sharing the gospel, it's difficult because there isn't an awareness of sin.
Absolutely. And so let me ask you this then. I've read this online that there are a lot of people, I want to come back to the shame thing, but that there are a lot of repeat of people having more than one abortion, 2 abortions, 3 abortions.
Yes.
And is that your experience as well?
Yes. So we now have had, in 2 cases, women who came to see us a year ago, were considering abortion and decided to have their baby back again in the same circumstance. And that's really difficult for us. I mean, we want to.
So I would think, can I interrupt? So I would think if they were coming here and you were mean to them and treating them bad and explain to them that they're barbarians or something like that, if you are not treating them with all the things the Christian left says that we don't treat them with, dignity, respect, there's hope, God restores, this is your decision, you're not forcing them to do something, I don't think they'd be coming back again a second time. So I just want to mention that. But go ahead with your story.
Yeah, we keep relationship with these women long term, as long as they'll want to keep relationship with us, because we do care about them. We care that they don't have any hope, that they've been so demoralized by their life circumstance. We want to see them come out of that. We believe that the hope is Christ for that. There's no humanistic solution to bring them out of that. We know that there's hope, and the hope is only in Christ. And the hope in Christ is found through repentance and turning to him as Lord. And so we want people to experience him when they're here and to experience love. There's women who have chosen life, and we've kept in contact. And one of them recently just said to me, I'm so thankful that I came in to you and didn't go first to my abortion appointment, because I just love this baby so much. And you were the voice that actually spoke for him and brought me to my senses. And so those kinds of things are just, we are not helping women by telling them to abort their flesh. And if we are Christians and we actually know the truth that God created the child in that woman's womb, then we absolutely should have utter confidence that God intends to use this pregnancy for good in the woman's life. And the absolute worst thing that we could do is to encourage her in any way, shape, or form that the best thing she needs to do, what she needs is actually, to be able to pursue going to college or pursue her career. That's more important than this life that God has created in her womb. And so as Christians, we should be so clear on that. We should be so clear that we are not helping women by catering to what society is saying to them. Our message should be so countercultural, and we should reject the humanistic idea that women need abortion to be successful. We know that that's not true. We know that it actually, in many cases, gives them something to wake up for. It gives them something to work towards, gives them some hope that, I need to hustle because I now need to provide for this child, my child. It instills in them a level of there's something worth living for.
Yeah, and responsibility. And the future and who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish in life? I mean, there's a study I'm sure you're aware of. I can't remember the name of it, but basically the idea was this, and this is sociological statistical research in America, that if you do three things, and that is graduate high school, don't get married until you are 21. Sorry, I messed them up. Graduate high school, number one. Yep. Number two, get a job. And that's any job. That could be McDonald's. You don't have to get, quote, a good job or a high-paying job. Any job will do. Cutting grass, McDonald's, whatever. Mop the floors, clean dishes. And then number three, don't get married until you're 21. And they call it three reasons, but and they say, don't get married till you're 21 and wait till you're married to have kids. Exactly. So it's actually four, but they make it into three. So let's just say them against people here. Graduate high school, get any full-time job, don't have a kid until you get married at 21. And if you do those three things, you have a 90% chance, 90+% chance of being lifted out of poverty in America. That doesn't matter what city you're born in, how much money your parents had, your economic status, where you went to school, color of your skin, male, female, none of those things matter. We live in a country, this is amazing to me, that if you do those things, then you have a 90% chance of not being poor. And the reason I am bringing that up is to say that a lot of people accuse us the pro-birthers apparently, as being mean because we say, well, God has a system and a plan. Right. And what God wants to do is create families And that is a part of his authority. It's a part of his government, if you will. The government of God oversees all government. And part of those things he oversees is a government, a sphere of family and of a man and a woman raising their children. And this leads me to my question for you, either nationally or anecdotally in your clinic. What percentage of people are coming here thinking of having abortions who are married? I was wanting to look some statistics up on that. I'm wondering, is this a thing that people are just like, hey, we can't afford it? Is this what it is? Or is it mainly going to be issues outside of that family sphere?
Yes. So the nationwide statistic is 86% of women who have abortions are unmarried. And
really? 86?
86%, yes.
All right, so that just blows the entire thing. And in other words, we're not mean for saying that God has a structure of government and authority that actually works with families, keeping sex between a man and a woman in a marriage relationship and blah, blah, blah. We're not just making that up.
Not making
86%.
That up. 86%. And those bear with our statistics as well, but also we have some additional insight of the remaining few that are married. The majority of those were considering abortion because the baby wasn't their husband's, or there's a possibility that the baby wasn't their husband. So again, you're looking at a situation that this is outside of what we know is rights and the context for marriage and faithfulness within marriage. When you get outside of that is where you start to see these things breaking down. So the idea that we just need to be nicer or just need to provide more money, I mean, the problem is sin. The problem is lack of responsibility and sin. And if we as Christians aren't willing to say that this is we're not willing to actually declare what the good law of God is in the earth, the good plan and purpose of God that we know has a common grace for all who would abide by it, because we've seen that. So it's not that we're meanies we're just trying to hold you to this, this standard. This standard is good for you across the board, regardless of whether you believe in Jesus yet or not. This standard will bless your life, as you said. If you follow these things, these very few things, you're giving your kids the ultimate privilege. If you're just married to your spouse and have children, marriage and then children, you've given your children the absolute best privilege, bar none, that they could have.
Yeah, I read that. I read that new. That's their. I don't know if it's a new category, but for people watching that might not know, we hear about male privilege, we hear about white privilege. There's two-parent privilege. And now they're saying this is actually the worst kind of privilege, because children that grow up with two parents do so much better than other kids. Now, this isn't saying that there are people watching that if you only have one parent or if you're a single parent, hey, we have tons of love for you. God's got grace for you. The empowering presence of the Holy Spirit can help you get over anything. And that's why I always say, if you're in the kingdom of God, you've got kingdom privilege. If you're in the kingdom, you cannot claim to be a victim. All of us we are so lucky to know God. Lucky is not the right word. We're so blessed to know God. We're so blessed, and we can overcome. So that's not about that. It's just to say, now the world is finally recognizing, well, those people are doing better than these people. And it's actually, in the end, not about their gender, their color of skin. It's actually because they have two-parent privilege. And it's the worst privilege of all, except it's the best privilege of all. And the world even recognizes it.
Absolutely.
It's kind of
and it's crazy
funny
that we're not allowed to say that. We're not allowed to talk about the fatherlessness issue.
They can use the two-parent privilege to attack us, but we can't use it to say hey, do what we do.
This is a problem. This is a problem. And perhaps it looks like, if you look at when the war on poverty began, and those statistics of when all of these different policies started that encourage single motherhood, it looks like those policies that now you're saying we have to support if we're going to call ourselves pro-life, it kind of looks like those directly cause the breakdown of the family. Maybe we should have a little bit more kind of fear and awe of what it is that we're actually pushing and celebrating as a moral good. Maybe we need to step back and consider, has this actually been a benefit to society? Because the breakdown of the family as a Christian should grieve us to the core, because the family was instituted by God and is such it's the start of the core of everything. Advancing God's kingdom moves out, from his design of the family, that
Absolutely.
severe is such a gift and a blessing from him. So if we are just allowing this to be just destroyed, and we are not saying to the world that there is a way to do this, that is going to bring blessing to your life, then we're not loving people. We're not caring about people. We're not caring about women when we're not telling them that and sharing that message in a loving way with them, that there is a better way for them to live. There is a better way for their children. We're not supporting them by just saying, well, here's another program for you. Here's a little bit more money. That's not the most loving. It's just going to keep them in this cycle of dysfunction. And that's what we see is just cycles of dysfunction where, people are just stuck.
It seems to me that the Christian left position on this, and they're not going to like this pejorative either. This is a great word for we can use. We should name the episode pejoratives. But this is what I think about their ideas. Seem so humanistic to me, and it's almost like they're looking at the Bible. And they think that, even the ones that say, well, I know the Bible works, but you can't expect people to live by that. So they want to ignore what the Bible says will work. Meaning, why don't we teach like sexual ethics? Right. Why not say at 11 years old, don't start having sex?
Right.
Why don't we do that,
yes.
right? Why don't we teach where sex, belongs within marriage and this and the other? Fatherlessness. You never hear the Christian left almost ever talk about the issue of fatherlessness. It's bizarre to me because, again, even the secular world now will notice statistically, they won't use it for anything to build society on, but they will say, well, that's the biggest privilege of all. Having two parents just seems to work. They won't talk about any of those things.
Right.
But they want to keep trying to fix it with these other things, which is the definition of humanism, isn't it? That's not biblical truth. That is a humanistic way to try to manufacture society and make it work. And in that say, but we're the ones that love women by putting things in place that we know is not going to actually work.
Right.
Or maybe they're actually blinded and they actually think that it will work because they don't understand that God gives his way and it works. And then if it's not God's way, it don't work. What do you think? You think that they don't believe what the latter that I just said? Or is it the other thing?
I hope that it's more of a naivety, blindness to recognizing God did actually give us a pattern and a standard. He gave us a standard that we can follow. We're not left in the dark about how to handle these things. So when people say, well, you have your way of how you would deal with this, and I have mine, and they're both kind of on the same playing field. It's like, well, we actually have a way to know if they are in the same playing field or not.
Right.
And that's the word of God. And if what your solutions are all of the world's solutions, then I think that should give a person pause to think, oh, maybe I have allowed the world to shape my thinking a little bit more than I've allowed the word of God to shape my thinking, because as Christians, we know that there are going to be things that we believe and say that are going to be hated by the world. So if the world is just applauding us and everything that we believe, and this is, I think, the root of the issue is we've gotten so the seeker-sensitive movement has made us absolutely unwilling to say anything that would offend anyone, and hurt somebody's feelings. And it's like that is just wrong. We need to speak the truth. Otherwise, what are we attracting them to? Basically a prettied up version of the same thing. There's no salt to the word. We're not salty if that's the case. And we're good for nothing but to be thrown out and trampled. I mean, we need to be salty. We should be saying things that are contrary to culture, that not just for the sake of offending people, but if it's the truth, then we should be saying it.
Absolutely.
And there are lots of opportunities to be speaking the truth into the humanistic society that we're seeing, because our society thinks completely contrary to the Word of God. So the things that we are saying to society should be kind of not liked. And if we're afraid of that, then that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Okay, so we're going to finish up, but I think it would be cool if we take a quick look around. We're going to go look at the rooms. And when we're looking at these rooms, I want people to remember that a group of people from our church, led by Jen Ledger, made this place look inviting and welcoming and a place for people to come to for all sorts of help. So why don't we go take a quick look at that?
Sounds great.
All right. Okay, peeps, this is the welcoming room when we just walked in. Look how beautiful that is. I think we need to keep the Cooper stuff thing there forever.
Absolutely. Jen did a great job. Coming down here, this is our family room. So if moms come in and bring their kids.
This is so cool. Look at this room. Look, Jen painted this. Jen did the wall, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
So this is a room for kids to come in and have a place to play. And I mean, it's so... I see myself in the mirror. Hi.
If they need childcare, we have childcare volunteers. They can hang out with their kids, or if they just
childcare volunteer. Who pays for this?
Yeah.
Who pays for this?
Pro-birthers.
You pro-birthers?
Crowd, yes. Or we can do parenting classes or meetings with our clients right in here if they bring their kids.
Cool.
All right, this is our nurse's office. So we have 3 RNs on our staff. I am an RN, and then 2 others. And then this is our ultrasound room.
Awesome. So you got what we need in here.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, there's another painting by Jen Ledger. Look at that.
Absolutely.
You are my anchor. That's a Skillet song.
This is our baby boutique. So moms can come in here and shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we've got all kinds of baby items, baby clothes, diapers, wipes. Right.
Do you give this away or do you sell it?
We give it. It's all given away. So
sorry, I gotta rewind.
Yeah.
You give this away or you sell it?
Everything's for free. Everything's
Are you serious?
So, yep. Moms, when they come and are taking classes or just meeting with some of our staff members every visit, they can come in here and take a few things that they need.
Wow.
And these are all things that are donated by that great pro-birth crowd.
Yes.
So
yes. So I didn't know that you guys had all this. So you have little foods and all sorts of diapers and all the stuff babies need. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I don't have babies anymore. It's so much work. As we finish up, I want to make sure if you would like more information about a clinic where you live, all you got to do is go on Google your city and your state and Google pro-life pregnancy care. Maybe that's something you want to give money to or volunteer with, or maybe you're interested in going to a clinic yourself. If you want to follow Jenna on social media is @JennaCross. Another good website to check out would be alliancewomensclinic.com or alliancefamily.services. And that's the group that Jenna says that they are a part of. And those 2 websites, one of those is if you would like to go to the clinic. The other one is if you would like to partner with that clinic in particular. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was encouraging you guys to know that if you get accused of only being pro-birth and yada yada, that you know that is actually not true. There is so much incredible work being done by pro-lifers, and most of the time it is being done by Christians and people just like you guys, just like my friend Jenna here, and from small churches, probably like yours and like mine, 100 people, 200 people, 300 people. There are all sorts of people doing amazing work, and I want to encourage you guys in that. And if you begin to feel attacked, people saying that you actually don't care about the woman and whatever, well, maybe you have a little bit of insight and statistical information as well as anecdotal.
That's right.
Anecdotal means anecdotes. They're like stories, tiny little stories that teach you something. I want to thank Jenna for coming on the show and rocking us, and peace.
You need to get back to teaching them how to read instead of teaching them how to go to hell. Read the Bible.
Cooper Star!